Today is Oliver's birthday, and they're throwing a party at the beachfront villa. As Oliver's little lover, of course I'm tagging along. Oliver is lounging lazily on the sofa, legs crossed, his eyes exuding an unapproachable air of nobility. And I'm just like an exquisite accessory, sitting beside him, a pretty face with no real use, a mere vase. Oliver is already getting a bit tired of me. His good buddy Matteo timely presented a new guy. Oliver, take a look. This one's right up your alley. Ain't he? The guy Matteo brought is pure and cute. Exactly the type Oliver likes best. He's the same type as Oliver's childhood friend. Matteo gave the guy a little push. Daniel, go offer Oliver a drink. The guy walked over shyly. Oliver, I'd like to toast you. Oliver curled his lips into a smile and looked at him charmingly. The guy seemed to be dazzled by that handsome face, and his face turned even redder, just when he thought he had it in the bag. I stood up, took the other glass of wine from his hand, and drank it. Then I smiled sweetly and said, "Sorry, Oliver only drinks the wine I feed him. I'll drink this one for him." The guy was taken aback and pursed his lips in a pout. Some of the other young masters also sneered at me in dissatisfaction. "Lucas, don't get ahead of yourself. Oliver hasn't talked to you for a month. Can't you figure out your place? You're just a little lover. Who do you think you are? There are plenty of guys more obedient than you. What makes you think Oliver should only have you by his side? You're only in it for the money, right? You can't have both the money and the man. Stop daydreaming. If Oliver dumps you, there are tons of people who can take your place. My face doesn't fit the innocent type that Oliver likes. Instead, I'm strikingly beautiful, but I managed to get close to Oliver with this pretty face and my fake innocence. They're right, anyone could replace me. I'm Oliver's kept lover, but also the one who's been by his side the longest. First, I was completely obedient to him, but later I gradually became bossy and didn't allow anyone else around Oliver except me. To tame my temper, Oliver left me alone in the villa and ignored me for a month. During that month, he got other lovers. They went in and out together, being extremely intimate, and he even asked me to buy condoms for them late at night. I stood outside the door for hours. I was almost frozen stiff by the cold wind, but he never came out. I knew he wouldn't come out, so I had to go back to the villa with the condoms. As soon as I got back, I had a high fever that lasted for several days. In a daze, I had a dream. I dreamed that I was actually a vicious cannon fodder in a novel, and Oliver was the main attacking character. In the future, I would be retaliated against by Oliver because I tried to bully the main receiving character, and my end would be miserable. Maybe he thought he'd ignored me long enough, so he brought me to his birthday party today. Oliver's aim was to tell me that he couldn't possibly have only me by his side, and to tell me not to be greedy. Hearing this, my face paled, my slender body swayed slightly, and I held Oliver's hand, looking fragile and affectionate. "Oliver, I love you for who you are, not for your money. You know that." But inwardly, I scoffed and thought, "Bah! Once I've got enough money, I'll hightail it out of here and keep a young stud as my sugar baby for a taste of the high life." Oliver was slightly taken aback, and a flicker of doubt crossed his eyes as he looked at me. Clearly, I hadn't said anything more, yet a familiar voice uttering strange words reached his ears. He furrowed his brows, thinking he must have misheard. After all, I loved him so much, how could I possibly say such things? Just then, a waiter carrying a tray of drinks approached. He had a face like a painting, clear eyes, a gentle demeanor, and stood there with an elegant presence. Oliver glanced at him but said nothing, yet his gaze lingered a bit longer than usual. That waiter was the main character, the one being courted, William. This book follows the cliché plot of a domineering young master falling for a commoner. I'm a fake innocent, while William is the real deal. But he's different. He's gentle yet resilient. Even under Oliver's forced love, he remained unyielding, stubborn and brave, and finally made Oliver back down. We're both substitutes for Oliver's childhood friend, but William has always been true to himself. How could anyone not love someone like that? I noticed Oliver's lingering gaze on him, snorted, and started to play my role as the evil cannon fodder. You, come here and pour me a drink. On your knees. Oliver frowned slightly and looked at me, a hint of dissatisfaction in his eyes. I knew he liked the delicate and innocent type, and hated people as mean and vicious as me. That's exactly what I want. I want him to loathe me, and hopefully, he'll dump me as soon as possible. Then I'll leave heartbroken with a huge breakup fee. William paused upon hearing this, but still walked over. Okay. He has a grandmother who's being treated in the hospital and a sister who's still in school. He needs money, so he can't afford to offend people like us. I sized up his face and figure, though I looked displeased on the surface. My heart had already melted. Oliver had his eye on him, and so did I. I'm head over heels for him. William is exactly my type. I want to kiss him, hug him. Once I break up with Oliver, I'll keep him as my sugar baby. I'll give him money to treat his grandma's illness and send his sister to school. William's legs trembled slightly as he slowly knelt down, and the tips of his ears turned bright red in an instant. He stole a cautious glance at me and met my intense stare. Wow, I like him no matter how I look at him. William averted his gaze and obediently poured me a drink. Kneeling on the ground, his broad shoulders and narrow waist made my heart flutter. That waist looked so energetic. William's cheeks flushed a deeper red, and he buried his head even lower, not daring to look up at me. I noticed that Oliver's face on the side had turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. The look in his eyes when he looked at me was filled with inquiry, anger, and a bit of disbelief. I almost thought he could hear my thoughts. How could that be possible? He must be angry because I'm bullying William. Oliver furrowed his brows and suddenly asked, "Your name is William?" William was taken aback for a moment. Yes. Oliver was so angry that he started laughing. The spark of attraction he had felt for William earlier had turned into a seething rage at the thought of betrayal. "You're really called William?" I was a bit puzzled. Did Oliver already know about William at this point? He then turned to me, his eyes practically blazing. "What's your relationship with him?" I was taken aback. I grabbed his hand and tried to placate him. "Oliver, what are you talking about?" "I don't know him." Oliver pinched my face hard. "Lucas, which of your words are even true?" I didn't understand what he meant. "Oliver, everything I said is true." Oliver furrowed his brow and shook off my hand. Then he stood up, put his arm around Daniel's waist, and left. He didn't even spare me a glance. His friends followed suit, and before leaving, they couldn't resist mocking me, and I pretended to be hurt, shouting Oliver's name behind his back. Oliver ignored me. No one paid me any attention. In his eyes and those of these young masters, I was just a plaything. The others at the party looked at me with disdain. Oliver's attitude towards me represented how these people felt about me. It seemed that Oliver really was going to dump me this time. I couldn't stand being there. I pretended to cry for a while, then calmly wiped away my tears. Just then, a handkerchief was held out to me. I looked up and saw William's handsome face. He was looking at me with concern. "You okay?" Just having finished crying, I glared at him with red-rimmed eyes. "What? Feeling sorry for me 'cause I got left behind? So gentle. William's like an angel, isn't he?" William blushed again. He seemed shy and at a loss. I didn't mean that. Do you have anywhere to go? Want to come to my place first?" Looking at his face, my eyes welled up again. Somehow, I just agreed, as if possessed. Maybe it was because he was the only one here willing to wipe my tears and offer to take me home. Okay. William's place was really cramped. Having been used to living in a big villa, I hadn't seen such a small room in ages, so small that you could take it all in at a glance. I used to live in a place like this a long time ago. That memory was too bitter, and I'd sworn never to live in such a room again. But William didn't seem to mind. His heart was full, and he'd made his home warm and kept it well organized. William looked at me, feeling sorry for the first time, with a shy look of apology on his face. He said, "Sorry, my place is too small. You've probably never seen a room like this, right? I'm making money. I'll rent a bigger one later. Next time." He trailed off. There was a bit of disappointment and annoyance on his face. Maybe he thought I definitely wouldn't come back next time. I pursed my lips. Yeah, I've never lived in such a small room. What a beautiful room. So many books. What's this? And what's that? Can I come again next time? William was taken aback and quickly said, "Sure. You can come whenever you want." I was startled, then turned my head away. I didn't say I wanted to come. I'm gonna buy this house. Then I'll get a big one and live with William. I'll support him, and I'll make him fall in love with me. William's face turned even redder. His lips quivered a few times, and finally he asked the question he'd been wanting to ask. "What's your name? Do we know each other?" "Lucas, no, we don't. I know you. You're William. So, do you like me?" I gave him a surprised look. "What are you thinking? How could I like you? Does wanting to get close to you count?" William was taken aback. He pressed his lips tightly together, hung his head low, and his face was so red it seemed about to steam, as if he'd been hit by what I said. He was too ashamed and annoyed to ask another question. "Yeah, I'm just that mean." There was only one bed in William's house, and the quilt wasn't thick. I'm extremely sensitive to cold. I curled up in the blanket, shivering. So William boiled some water, poured it into a plastic bottle, and then put it in the quilt to warm me up. He set an alarm for himself. When the water was almost cold, he'd get up and boil some more to replace it. He looked at me and tucked me in tightly. "Sorry. It's all my fault." I didn't understand. What was there to be sorry about? Sorry for what? William's family wasn't well off, but he'd never been self-conscious about it. This was the first time he felt sorry. It was like coming home with a precious treasure, but having no exquisite box to hold it. Felt like a sin. He said self-reproachfully, "Sorry, my place is too cold." I tugged at the quilt and said, It's not cold. It's quite warm actually. I'm even starting to sweat." William smiled. He was good-looking, and when he smiled, he was even more charming. I was mesmerized and suddenly asked, "William, I want to keep you. Do you agree or not?" Although William was poor, he had a strong sense of self-esteem. In the original story, when Oliver offered to keep him, William immediately got angry and told him to get lost. So later Oliver threatened William with his relatives and forced himself on him. But William never gave in. He even made the Fay family pay a price for it. William was like a sturdy pine tree, tough and fearless. As soon as the words left my mouth, I regretted it. What if he got angry and told me to get out? It was the middle of the night, and it was so cold outside. William looked down at me and said softly, "Okay." I was taken aback. I didn't expect him to agree. I stared at him blankly and said, "Huh. Oh well, then how much do you want per month?" "I earn 200,000 a month. I have to pay for William's grandma's treatment and his sister's tuition. That's how sugar daddies are. I have to cover all the expenses, but I also need to save money to buy a house. How much is appropriate to give?" William looked at me. His eyes were as dark as the endless night. $100. $100 is enough." I looked at him in surprise and stammered, This is what you said." "Yeah, I said it." I didn't expect William to be so cheap. I immediately happily nestled into his arms. Now I'm the boss, and I can do whatever I want. William's embrace is so inviting. There's no expensive perfume smell, just a faint scent of laundry detergent. When I woke up again, William beside me was already gone. There was a glass of warm water and a note on the nightstand. "Drink some water when you wake up. There's breakfast I made in the rice cooker. I've gone to work. Sorry for leaving you waking up alone. This is my phone number. I've also left you a key. You can come anytime you want." Looking at this note, I thought silently, William really has a talent for being a lover. I opened the rice cooker, and there was a meat patty and a bottle of milk inside. They were kept warm nicely. I opened the fridge beside it, and saw the remaining steamed buns. I knew it. William eats steamed buns himself but makes a meat patty for me. I angrily closed the fridge door, thinking that William is never allowed to eat steamed buns again. While eating the breakfast made by my lover, my phone rang at this time. It was Oliver calling. As soon as I answered, his voice came through. "Lucas, come and cook for me." His voice was a bit hoarse. He must have just woken up. There was also a coquettish male voice beside him. "Oliver, I'm so hungry." Oliver sneered and said to that person, "Didn't I feed you enough last night?" After that, he said to me again, "Did you hear that? Come here quickly." I paused for a moment before replying, "Okay, I'll come right away." Oliver hasn't dumped me yet, and I'm paid to do this, so cooking a meal is the least I can do. But I guess I won't have to cook for him much longer. I soon arrived at Oliver's doorstep. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Daniel leaning against the door in a bathrobe, with lots of marks on his body, indicating that last night was quite intense. He laughed mockingly. "Oh, I thought it was the maid Oliver called. It's you." He did it on purpose. A sinister smile curled up on my lips. "Hee, I'll put rat poison in the food and kill you later." Daniel was taken aback, his face turning green and white. "You wouldn't dare. Just you wait and see if I dare." I walked in and gave him a hard shove with my shoulder. He let out a yelp but couldn't do anything to me. He was so angry that he stomped his feet on the spot. I walked straight to the kitchen and skillfully started preparing lunch. After a while, I heard footsteps behind me. I snorted. "What? Are you really afraid I'll poison you? Where were you last night?" "The maid said you didn't come back to the villa." It was Oliver's voice. I was a bit surprised and turned around to explain. "I couldn't get a taxi back. It was too far. Why didn't you call me?" I wanted to ask him, what good would calling do? During that month, I was locked in the villa. I called him countless times, but he never answered. I even called him in the middle of the night when I had a high fever, but he didn't pick up. I stubbornly thought that if he knew I was sick, he'd feel bad for me, but in fact, he wouldn't even answer my calls. Finally, when I realized that my phone ran out of battery, and I couldn't even call an ambulance. If the maid hadn't opened the door and noticed something was wrong with me, I probably would have been burned stupid. I smiled and said, "It would bother you. I'll just find a hotel to sleep in." He frowned deeply and said, "Bother me?" Maybe it was the first time he'd heard me say something like that before. As soon as he had any kind of close contact with someone else, I'd snatch him back, but not anymore, not for a long time. I listened to what he said and returned to the position I should be in, completely cutting him out of my life. I didn't have much education. I used to be a waiter. One day, when I was bullied by a customer, Oliver stood up for me. I was really grateful to him and looked forward to his appearance every day, but he never came back. Some people laughed at me for being stupid, saying that Oliver was the young master of the Fey family, the crown prince of the capital city, and I was way out of his league. I was very self-conscious, yet I really wanted to get close to him. So I asked around for news about him and finally came before him. I summoned up my courage to talk to him, but he just gave me a cold glance and said, "How much do you charge?" "I'll keep you." He didn't remember me and thought I was a prostitute. I felt bitter in my heart, but I didn't want to let this opportunity slip away. 2,000. Is that okay? I could earn 3,000 as a waiter, but if I could stay by Oliver's side, I'd be fine with just 2,000. Oliver raised an eyebrow, a hint of mockery in the smile on his face. Maybe he thought I was saying this on purpose, playing the innocent to win sympathy. Cut the act. I'll give you 200,000. So I became Oliver's little lover, and keeping me was just a way for him to rile up his childhood friend at that time. He liked that friend, not me. Oliver had a stomach problem and was picky about food. To prevent him from dumping me, I studied his taste every day and went to great lengths to cook delicious food for him. He happened to like the food I cooked, so I was kept around, although I was called his lover. In fact, I was just a cook. I liked him and wanted to be the only one by his side. But what I got was his coldness and abandonment. I finally realized that he wasn't the person I had imagined. There was a huge, unbridgeable gap between us. I smiled at him gently as always. Yeah, Oliver, don't worry. I won't make mistakes again. I don't want to be locked in the villa anymore. Nor do I want to stay by your side. Oliver was stunned. He looked at my calm expression and seemed to sense that something had changed. He couldn't help clenching his hands, his jawline tightening. But then he quickly composed himself. He furrowed his brows and said coldly, I'm not going to lock you up randomly. You can move back in now. I shook my head. It's okay. I'll just stay outside. That way, when Oliver brings people back at night, I won't bother you guys. You can sleep with whoever you want. I'd rather not be here to get sneered at the next day. Whenever Oliver brought someone back, I'd jump out and tell those people to get lost. I always spoiled Oliver's mood. I've offered myself to him, even shamelessly tried to seduce him. But Oliver remained unmoved. Later I found out he had a childhood friend he'd always liked, and all the people he took to bed resembled that childhood friend. But I don't look like that person at all. The only thing I can do is cook. Oliver knitted his brows and his breathing quickened for a few moments. Suit yourself. He turned around and walked out. I continued to focus on preparing lunch. I've done it so many times that I'm used to always catering to Oliver's taste. When the food was on the table, Daniel somehow took out a cashmere knitted gray scarf. He wrapped the scarf around himself and said coquettishly, This scarf is so beautiful. Give it to me, Oliver. I looked at the scarf and my gaze paused for a moment. I knitted that for Oliver. I'm not very smart. I wasted a lot of materials and spent a long time learning before I could knit one. Knitting a scarf for someone you love is a happy thing, but Oliver has never used it. Oliver looked at the scarf around Daniel's neck, furrowed his brows, and remained silent. I thought to myself, take it. I wore out my fingers knitting this scarf. It's good that someone's using it. I did want to get it back, but once it was given away, it belonged to Oliver. Even if he didn't want it, Oliver immediately looked at me, a hint of anger on his face. Here you go. It's something I don't want anyway. Indeed, it was something he didn't want. I said, the meal is ready. I'll be leaving now. Just as I was about to leave, Oliver called out to me, since you don't live here, take your stuff with you. I was a bit confused and didn't know what he was talking about. I only knew what he meant by following Oliver's line of sight. There was a vase in the entrance hall that Oliver and I made together. According to the online dating guide, lovers can do handicrafts together to strengthen their bond. I pestered Oliver to go with me. I used to cherish it a lot because it represented a precious memory. I stared at the vase, lost in thought. Oliver sneered, as if he had caught my reluctant expression. He walked over personally, took the vase from its place, and threw it at me. Crash! I was a bit slow to catch it, and the vase smashed onto the ground, shattering into pieces. The air went quiet for a split second. I took out a bag and started picking up the shards. Oliver, don't come over. Be careful not to cut yourself on the shards. I'll just pick up the trash. Trash. I used to be reluctant to even put flowers in it, but now I think of it as trash. Oliver looked at the shards, a fleeting trace of unease flashing in his eyes, but he froze when he heard what I said. I picked up the shards and was about to leave, but Oliver grabbed my wrist. His expression was a bit awkward, as if he wasn't used to saying something that sounded almost like pleading. Lucas, move back in. I can still accompany you to do this one more time. It's okay, Oliver. Your time is precious. You don't need to accompany me. His brows knitted tightly, and he almost gritted his teeth as he said, think it through. Do you think you're worthy to be the only one by my side? Can you handle it? I nodded. I've thought it through. Oliver taught me that I'm not worthy. That 1 month period had taught me not to overstep the line even a little bit. I couldn't get in touch with Oliver, and I wasn't allowed to look for him, but I always heard others say that he was seen with someone else, going around as a couple. I finally realized how ridiculous I was, so I took back all my feelings and returned to a position that suited my status. Oliver stared intently at me, as if trying to find a hint of sadness or jealousy in my expression. But there was nothing. He tightened his grip on my hand. It hurt so much that I thought my wrist was going to be crushed. He said coldly, "Do you still remember your place? You think you can get 200,000 a month just by cooking? Well, then I won't do it. I also feel a bit guilty about it. I don't want to be your mistress anymore, and I don't want the 200,000 either." Oliver stared at me, almost with his eyes wide open in rage. "What do you mean?" I winced in pain but looked at him defiantly. "I don't want to be your mistress anymore." Oliver stared at me in a daze. I tried to pull my reddened wrist out of his grip. Tears welled up in my eyes from the pain, and I said firmly again, "I said I don't want to be your mistress anymore." Oliver let go of my hand, and I quickly turned around and fled. I knew Oliver wouldn't try to stop me. His pride and status wouldn't allow him to. There could be 100 or even 1,000 mistresses like me to replace me. After breaking up with Oliver, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. Now I'm the one with money, and I'm gonna be sweet with my own lover. I'll definitely treat him well. After I called William, I quickly went to the place where he worked to find him. When I got there, I heard William asking his boss for leave. The boss looked troubled and said, "Really? It's not possible. We're swamped today. Several important clients are coming. How can we manage without you?" Just as William was about to speak, he saw me peeking my head in from the doorway. He was taken aback for a moment. Both of them turned to look at me. I knew this boss. When William's grandma was ill, it was him who lent William money in an emergency. He was a nice guy. I blinked my eyes and said, "Busy? Then I'll help out. I used to be a waiter." The boss looked at me and gave a teasing smile. "Is that so?" "Thank you," he said, then looked at William. "Is this the partner you were talking about?" The moment William saw me, his eyes softened incredibly. Now, hearing this, his face turned red right away. I guessed that the reason he was asking for leave just now was probably to be with his partner. I nodded. "That's right, I'm his partner." For the sake of not embarrassing you, this benefactor might as well admit it. William curved his eyes, looking at me with doting eyes, smiling so brightly that it was dazzling. He didn't want me to help and told me to just sit aside and have fun. I didn't agree. As my sweetheart, William could only follow me and took me to change into a waiter's uniform. He said, "Just stay with me. You don't need to do anything." "No way anyway. I've got nothing else to do. I can handle it." The boss is a good person who lent William money to treat his grandma. I should help a good person too. William's hand, which was tying the sash of my clothes, paused for a moment. He raised his eyes to look at me. The emotions in his eyes seemed almost uncontrollable. Some thoughts sprouted in an instant, giving one the wild ambition to do anything. He buried his head in the crook of my neck and sighed. "Lucas, there won't be a next time. I can't bear to see you do these things." I started working part-time a long time ago, washing dishes, delivering food, and running errands. No one ever felt sorry for me. No one ever said they couldn't bear to let me do things. William was the first one. I stood there dumbly, enveloped in William's arms. My heart felt a bit sour and soft. When dinner time came, I quickly got into the swing of things thanks to my previous experience as a waiter. This was a high-end restaurant, catering to wealthy big shots. But I didn't expect to run into Oliver here. He was having a meal with several familiar young masters, sitting at the head of the table with an unhappy expression. That Daniel wasn't there. Someone asked, "Oliver, how come Lucas isn't here this time? Isn't he always all over you?" He must have been driven away by Oliver. Oliver must find him so annoying. I lowered my head to serve the dishes, rolling my eyes so hard in my mind. Bah! Who wants to come? Just looking at you guys makes me want to puke. How can I eat? Oliver stopped short, as if sensing something, and suddenly looked in my direction. I was freaking out. What are you looking at me for? I'm wearing a mask. He shouldn't be able to recognize me, right? He frowned and said, Lucas. I was startled and pretended not to hear, turning around to leave. Unexpectedly, Oliver took 3 steps in 2 and came up to me, grabbing me and taking off my mask with his other hand. I was a bit flustered. Oliver looked at me and suddenly sneered. Where did you get the news this time? Knowing I'm here. Maybe because I've done it a few times before. Oliver thought I did it on purpose this time. But for some reason, Oliver didn't look angry this time. Instead, he seemed relieved and happy. Oh, I knew he'd come pestering along. Call the boss over. How can they let anyone in? He's not a waiter here at all. I pursed my lips and pushed Oliver away, saying, I didn't follow you here. Oliver looked at me without speaking, but his expression clearly showed he didn't believe me. The boss rushed over when he heard the commotion and apologized repeatedly. Sorry, everyone. He's a new waiter here, but he definitely didn't follow you guys. He's here to accompany his boyfriend. Oliver raised an eyebrow and looked at me. Boyfriend? You told him that? I knew he must have misunderstood that I was referring to him as my boyfriend. I was a bit speechless. For the first time, I thought Oliver was so narcissistic. I've said I didn't come here on purpose. I'm here to accompany my boyfriend, William. I raised my voice a bit, and everyone was stunned, including William, who rushed over in a hurry from the door. I blushed a little, feeling a bit embarrassed. William came over and gently pulled me behind him. I'm his boyfriend. He's here to keep me company. What's up? The young masters were shocked to hear this. Wow, really? Lucas's boyfriend is someone else. Oliver's hand, which had been holding mine, now felt empty. His jawline tightened, and anger gradually welled up in his eyes. William? It's you again. William's eyes were calm. No matter what you had with him before, I'm his boyfriend now. The two stared at each other. There was no spark like that between a main couple, but rather they seemed like rivals meeting, eyes blazing with hostility. Oliver gritted his teeth. Lucas, you should have hooked up with him long ago, right? That's why you couldn't wait to break up with me. Just for a waiter. I didn't understand why Oliver was so angry. I could only guess that he couldn't accept that I left because of someone else. I was afraid he'd take it out on William, so I had to explain. During the month I was locked in the villa, and when I had a high fever one night and couldn't get through to you on the phone, I already wanted to leave. It wasn't for anyone. Oliver was slightly stunned. When was that? He asked me to bring him something and left me out in the cold for hours. He wouldn't remember. I had guessed that long ago. I was too lazy to say more. I grabbed William's hand and left the private room. William held my hand tightly. He was like a taut bow, suppressing and restraining himself. I guessed he was worried about me. I said, Don't worry. I'm not sad. I stopped liking him a long time ago. William's eyes were full of pity, perhaps because of what I had just said. Being locked up in the villa, left all alone, and no one even knew when I was sick. I didn't really feel that sad or pitiful back then, but now, seeing William's trembling hands and red-rimmed eyes, I suddenly felt sad. Only when someone cares about you can you feel the pain. William gently touched my eyes and brows. He looked so heartbroken that it made me feel bad for him. Lucas, I'll get everything back for you. It won't be long. It was the first time I saw an almost fierce expression on William's face. Holy cow, he's so handsome. Can I go home with William tonight? William's expression froze for a moment, and then his face turned bright red. He gave me a shy and helpless look, as if he could see through my dirty thoughts. He wouldn't let me carry plates anymore and just told me to sit in the kitchen and enjoy the delicious food. I'm good-looking and have a sweet mouth, and the chefs liked me a lot. I didn't just eat for free. I volunteered to take out the trash. When I came back from taking out the trash, I ran into Oliver, who was smoking at the back door. The cigarette in his hand glowed on and off, and his tall and straight figure was hidden in the night. I pretended not to see him. Oliver called out to me, "Lucas, I promise I'll only have you by my side from now on, okay? I'll even accompany you to be a vase again. Stop being angry." I pretended not to hear him. Oliver said coldly, "Are you really going to break things off with me for a waiter?" I turned around and looked at him. "Why not? I used to be a waiter too. Don't you remember?" Oliver frowned. "What are you talking about? Weren't you from that club? Do you still remember that a few months ago, you helped a waiter in a coffee shop drive away a customer who was bullying him?" Oliver's eyes froze slightly, as if he could hardly believe it. "Yes, I'm that waiter. I'm not from the club. It's true that I earn $2,000 a month. I wasn't faking it. I just like you, because you have a stomach problem. I signed up for classes and learned to cook for you, whatever type you like. I tried to learn, even if it meant pretending. It doesn't matter if you don't like me or if you like someone else. I just want to stay by your side. But there are so many people around you, and I became the one who was abandoned. If that aunt hadn't found me when I had a fever and was almost half dead, I might not be able to stand in front of you now." I looked at him seriously and said, "The cost of staying by your side is too high. I'm scared, and I don't want to anymore." The cold wind was silent. Oliver froze in place, his face deathly pale. The cigarette in his fingertips burned his fingers, but he didn't seem to notice. I turned around and walked away. He tried to grab my hand, but I dodged. "Lucas, I didn't know you. It's my fault." For the first time, I saw such a sad expression on Oliver's face, a mix of regret and self-blame. The always arrogant young master now seemed like a stray dog. He used to think I was vain and loved him only because of his status and money. So he didn't admit that he liked me and thought I wasn't worthy. But the truth was quite different from what he thought. His voice was hoarse as he said, "Lucas, there won't be a next time. I won't lock you up anymore. I didn't give your scarf to him. I took it back. I like you too. Come back. I can give you whatever you want. I'll change. From now on, there will only be you by my side. No need." That night, I went back to that small home with William. We also bought a bag full of birth control supplies. I thought William was shy, but when we went to buy them, he was the one who looked at them the most seriously. I was too embarrassed to stay long, but he even asked the salesperson in detail about the differences. That night, after I took a shower, it was William's turn, and I was on the bed looking up information to study. Those pictures made me blush, but I still kept looking at them seriously. When William, all hot from the shower, pressed against my back, I finally snapped back to reality. "Ah, what are you doing?" William smiled apologetically. "Sorry, did I scare you? What are you looking at?" I quickly covered my phone, my eyes darting around guiltily. "Nothing. Of course I'm studying. I've never done this before. I'm a sugar daddy, and I can't let my little lover look down on me." William smiled and stroked my forehead hair. He smiled brightly and said, "Oh, I see." William kissed me on the cheek. He has a great figure, broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and perfect muscle lines. I didn't even dare to look. "Come on, get dressed quickly. I've already put my clothes on," I protested, my face blushing. William's smile widened, and a wolfish cunning lurked in his clear, moonlit eyes. "Well, let me help baby take them off." "Who the hell is your baby?" He let out a low laugh, then leaned down and kissed me. His actions were gentle yet irresistible. The air instantly heated up, and my heart was pounding like a drum. Soon, everything got out of control. I never thought that William, who seemed so gentle and refined, was actually a wolf in sheep's clothing. That day, it went on for a long time. I can't even remember when I fell asleep. William took me to move into a big house. He quit his job as a waiter and started getting busy. I don't understand all this, I just think William looks so handsome when he's seriously typing on his laptop. The busier he gets, the more clingy he becomes. He won't allow me to be out of his sight for too long. When he's tired, he'll hold me and take a break. He calls it recharging his batteries. I know he wants to give me a better life, but I feel sorry for him. William, if you keep this up, you'll ruin your health. I don't have to live in a big house. I really liked the small one before. William looked at me softly and pulled me into his arms. My sweetie, I can't help it. I'm afraid it's too cold at night and you'll shiver in the blanket. I'm even more afraid you'll get used to that cold. Do you understand? I can't stand that. I sort of understood. William stroked my head and then kissed me tenderly. Later I learned that love often makes you feel indebted. William couldn't bear to see me suffer, having something precious to protect and cherish. He became ambitious, just like a tree root, deeply rooted in the ground, absorbing nutrients, making the little tree thrive, grow beautifully and without worries. I still remember my duty as a sugar daddy. William is affordable, and I can keep supporting him in the future. But I still haven't paid for my grandma's treatment, and there's also my sister's tuition fee. One day, I brought it up. William, where are your family? William was taken aback by the question. My parents passed away. Now I only have my grandma and little sister. Grandma's in the hospital. Do you want to go see her? Is that okay? I'd love to. Sure. Feeling a bit shy, I spruced myself up a bit, then grabbed a fruit basket and went to the hospital with William. William's grandma has cerebral palsy and is currently in the rehabilitation stage. Rehabilitation costs a fortune. She was so kind. When she saw the hands William and I were holding tightly, she just looked at me gently. It seemed like she knew who I was. Grandma, this is Lucas. I told you about him before. He's my lover. I was a bit nervous. Hello, Grandma. William's grandma was really gentle. She even asked William to bring me something from her small metal box. It was as if she had prepared it long ago. It was a jade bracelet, a lovely shade of green. I then learned that William's grandma was from a well-to-do family. She eloped with William's grandpa because she fell in love with him. The two of them were deeply in love. And so were William's parents. William's mom died during childbirth when giving birth to his sister. His dad was heartbroken and passed away not long after. The Williams sure produced passionate and stubborn lovers. And William was raised by his grandma. I finally understood why William was so gentle and tough. I dared not accept it, but I was afraid of offending the elder. So I could only take it and secretly make up my mind. Grandma, don't worry. I'll treat William well in the future. William tightly held my hand, with the same force as the sound of his heartbeat. I learned from the TV that the Fay family was going to have a social gathering. Oliver was going to marry his childhood friend as he wished. That's pretty good. While I was eating cake at the cake shop waiting for William to get off work, an unexpected guest showed up. Oliver was wearing a coat and had that familiar gray scarf around his neck. He didn't look well, with dark circles under his eyes. I'm getting engaged. I didn't know why he specifically told me this. Congratulations. Oliver's face turned even worse. He asked me, did you receive the things I sent you? I sent you something every day, along with letters. I was a bit confused. What things? He had an expression of realization and hatred. Sure enough, he didn't give them to you. He didn't give you any of them. He looked at me, and for the first time, an almost pleading expression appeared on his cold face. Lucas, I put the vase back together. You can't see any signs of it being broken. If you come back, I won't get engaged. Okay. Let's get married and go abroad. Okay. Give me another chance. I interrupted him before he could finish. I'm getting married too. To William. Oliver's face instantly turned deathly pale. He clenched his fists tightly and said, I won't let you two get married. I'll win you back. Oliver said it was William who forced him to get engaged to the Song family. To be precise, the Fay family needed to ally with the Song family to deal with William. William was being too ruthless towards the Fay family. Oliver said his engagement was fake, and he'd come for me once William was out of the picture. I don't understand all these twists and turns. All I know is that it's William's quitting time. The rain outside the window was pattering softly. William, holding an umbrella, arrived outside the cake shop and smiled at me. "Baby, it's time to go home." I packed my small bag and followed William home, and even took out a red banknote from it. $100. For the renewal. William smiled and took it, not even willing to fold it. There were many such red banknotes in the safe in his study, all given by me. Clearly, he wasn't short of this bit of money, yet he said it was more precious than all the money he'd ever earned combined. I didn't ask William about the things Oliver had sent me. William seemed gentle and amiable on the surface, but in fact, he was much more obsessive than Oliver. It's just that his possessiveness and obsession were more subdued. It was like a net woven meticulously with warmth and tenderness, soft and warm. No matter where I wanted to go or what I wanted, that net would always follow me, along with love, desire, and a bit of control, ensuring I was happy, carefree, and got everything I wanted, paving the way for me and safeguarding me. Love doesn't have a specific form. Tenderness is love, obsession is love, and tolerance is love too. I love William, so I accept all his different ways of showing love.